Hey everyone, welcome to a deep dive, and this one goes out specifically to you, our listeners of Kitties and Cats 2 podcast.
That's right.
We have some really cool stuff for you today. We're going to be talking about the history of cats, kind of tracing their journey from being these wild animals all the way to the ones that are, curled up on our laps today.
Yeah.
And we really want to understand what were the big steps in their evolution, and what is it about them, about us, that created this connection that we have with them, you know?
Exactly. It all starts with this animal called the African wildcat.
Right.
Which is the ancestor of, all the domestic cats we know and love today. And if you were to see one of these guys in the wild, the first thing you'd notice is how agile they are.
Oh, really?
And they're really lean. You can just tell they're they're built for survival. And that's because they're solitary hunters.
Interesting.
They're not living in packs. They're out there on their own, and so they have to rely on these super sharp senses to catch their prey and to survive.
So I'm hearing you say they weren't exactly lap cats back then.
Oh no.
More hardcore survivors.
Total survivors.
So how did they make that shift then? How did they go from these, loner, tough guys to the friendly felines that we have in our homes?
Well, it looks like it started with domestication,
Yes.
right? And that seemed to pop up in lots of different ancient civilizations.
Okay.
And it seems like it was this kind of mutually beneficial relationship that drew them together. So as humans started storing grain and stuff,
right,
it attracted all kinds of rodents,
Mm-hmm.
Mice and rats.
Yeah, of course.
It's the delicious snacks that wildcats love. So you have this concentration of prey
Yeah.
in a pretty safe spot,
Yep.
around these human settlements.
Right.
And it's like a free buffet for the wildcats. And for the humans, they got free pest control.
Oh, that's interesting.
There are all these really cool artifacts from these early settlements,
Yeah.
where you can see depictions of cats just hanging out with humans, right there in their space.
So essentially, they were the original exterminators, almost.
Exactly.
I mean, well, I guess they were just doing their thing.
Yeah.
But then, I've also heard that cats were religiously significant in some cultures too, right?
Absolutely. In ancient Egypt,
Yeah.
they had this huge reverence for cats. They were considered sacred.
Wow.
And that probably, it definitely would have deepened those bonds, you know.
Right.
It's not just a practical thing anymore. It's a spiritual thing.
Right.
And that probably played a big part in how cats became such an integral part of human society,
Okay. So we've got this mutually beneficial thing happening. They're controlling pests. They're developing this, religious, spiritual significance. How do we go from that to all the breeds that we have today? I mean, you think about it, there's just a crazy variety of cats.
Right. And that's, that's adaptation, and then it's selective breeding that really comes in later.
Yeah.
So over centuries and centuries, cats started to adapt to all the different places humans were living. And that led to all sorts of natural variations in their looks and even their, temperaments a bit.
Right.
And then more recently, humans started intentionally breeding cats for certain traits. We want, a fluffy cat, or we want a cat with folded ears. And that's how we got all these different, distinct breeds.
Okay.
Persian, Siamese, Maine Coons, all those guys.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, along with those changes in appearance, we also see a shift in the cat's role in society.
Right.
That they're becoming more and more companions,
Yeah.
right? And that influences to a degree, what they need from us and how they interact with us.
Wow. Okay, so we've talked about, this transition that they've gone through, but what is it about them that's so appealing to us? What's the science behind this, charm that cats seem to have?
Well, it's a fascinating mix of biological and neurological stuff going on.
Okay.
Take purring, for instance.
Yeah, everybody loves a good purr.
Right. It's it's soothing. And studies actually suggest that the frequencies of a cat's purr can actually be calming for humans.
Oh, wow.
And some even say they can even help with healing.
Really?
It's wild.
That's amazing.
And it's not just the purring, their meows, the way they slow blink at us,
Yeah.
it can trigger these nurturing responses in us. It's oh, this little creature needs me.
Oh.
And there's even research showing that interacting with cats, petting them, can release oxytocin in our brains.
Right.
And that's a hormone that's like super important for bonding and feeling good. You know?
You get the love hormone.
Exactly. So there's a lot going on beneath the surface making us feel connected to these furry little guys.
So it's not just, like a superficial thing. It's really deep.
It's definitely a deep-rooted connection. It's not just something we think,
Yeah.
It's something we feel.
And I think it's fascinating too because, despite this independent nature that they have that we've been talking about, they do communicate with us, in their own way.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they're not pack animals like dogs. They don't have that same social structure. But they do form these like really strong bonds with their human caregivers.
Right.
And like researchers are always learning more and more about how cats can communicate. And it's just it's amazing how socially intelligent they actually are. They may not be, fetching our slippers, but they have their own way of telling us what they need and how they're feeling.
Yeah, that's true. So, okay, so we've gone through this whole journey, from the wildcats to the, companions we have today. What's their role now, Like, how do cats fit into our modern world?
Well, if you look at it like big picture, cats have become these globally significant companions.
Yeah.
They're like woven into the fabric of our culture, from the art that we make to, the internet. Obviously, cats are everywhere online.
Of course.
And their journey, like from these wild hunters to, the pets that we adore, it just speaks to their adaptability,
Right.
And this enduring appeal that they have for humans. It's really quite remarkable when you think about it.
It really is. And it makes me think about, the responsibility that we have towards them.
Exactly. I mean, that's a really important point to consider, especially for all of you listening. The Kitties and Cats 2 fans.
Oh, yeah.
As we enjoy, having cats in our lives and the companionship that they offer,
Yeah.
we also have to be responsible owners,
Right.
We have to think about their well-being and we also have to think about, supporting conservation efforts for their wild relatives out there,
Right.
The ones that are still out there struggling to survive in their natural habitats.
That's a really powerful thought. I mean, it makes you really appreciate the journey that they've been on and how they've come to be a part of our lives. So, for all of you listening out there, I want you to really consider this, this long journey that cats have been on.
Yeah.
And think about, what does our relationship with them say about us, as humans, and what is our responsibility to them, both the ones in our homes and the ones out in the wild.
Yeah, that's a great point to leave everyone with.
It's something to ponder.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been great.
And we'll catch you all next time.
See ya.